Lisa Mathis, we are so thrilled to have you on this episode of Two Soka, Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist and a Doctor. Lisa is 50 and fabulous, and she just came out with her first full-length feature, and she's going to be talking about her journey.
Lisa, we're so happy to have you with us today. Truly fabulous at any age, and we've known each other for decades now. But it's so great to be able to bring you on to Soka to talk about your experience with your production company, Branch Out, and to talk about this feature film, Block Party. And then Candy and I are going to look at what you've done and the way you presented things, and we're going to look at the mental health and the medical sides of it, as we kind of dive into this.
Great. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be joining you. I love your podcast. I'm
Thank
very
you.
excited.
Thank you. So tell us about Block Party. When I was watching it, I thought of it as a love letter to Grand Rapids.
For me, Black Party is very much a love letter to Grand Rapids. You know, that's where I was born and I was raised. I lived the first 18 years of my life. And Grand Rapids is a city that I hold so close to my heart, and it's really made me what I am. And so, when my husband Matt and I came up with the idea of doing Block Party, I said, we have to set it in my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The park that we shot it in is called Martin Luther King Park.
Oh, wow.
And I spent a lot of my summers there with my cousins, at block parties. I remember on Sundays after church, people would just be hanging out at the park and they'd bring their barbecues out to their front yard. And even though it wasn't an official block party, it was like a block party each weekend. And it was just fun. And some of the amazing characters that would come out on the porch and you'd be talking to, it was just a lot of fun. And so a lot of the film is actually based on a lot of my own personal experiences.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, did you guys specifically have a Juneteenth celebration, or was that just for the movie?
It's interesting. When I was growing up, Juneteenth really wasn't a thing. No one I knew actually celebrated Juneteenth.
Right.
And I remember when I was finally in high school, a girlfriend of mine invited me to a picnic at a park. And it was a Juneteenth celebration. I said, Juneteenth, like, what is Juneteenth? And she's like, girl, you don't know what Juneteenth is? I was like, no, I have no idea what Juneteenth is. And she explained to me, I was like, wow, how did I not know that? I never heard that growing up in school. My family never celebrated it. And, we've got 200 relatives in Grand Rapids and none of them ever celebrated. So it was really, really interesting to me.
Now, was
And
your friend from the South? Because I know more of my friends from the South celebrate Juneteenth than the people from the North.
Yes, the friend who actually brought me to this event was absolutely from the South.
Okay.
She was from Georgia and her mother was from Tennessee.
Okay.
And so she said that their family celebrated it every year. So it was definitely a much bigger thing in the South than what it ever was in Michigan.
Okay, so what was your process like? I know it's not like you just decided, I'm going to write a movie. I mean, you do have some background, but how did your background kind of build up to making this film?
I've always been interested in creating. I've always been a creator. I went to the University of Michigan where I got my master's degree in television and film. And shortly after that, I moved down to Florida and started working for Nickelodeon Studios. After that, I moved out to California because I realized that Los Angeles, if I really wanted to do television and film, that was going to be here. Bopped around a couple different places. Nickelodeon ended up moving their studios out here. So I started working for them again and worked for E! Entertainment Television. But what really interested me is in about 1998, 1999, the internet was really starting to get more active. And so I started producing content for the internet. Ironically, the company I work with went belly up, as did a lot of other companies, because we were creating all this video content, but nobody could actually download it. Everyone had AOL, and so it took forever to download a show. And so this is way before YouTube and all that other stuff. And then, of course, a few years later, YouTube came about. But shortly after that, I started having kids and decided to just leave the entertainment business for a while and just focus on my family. And so I took quite a few years off doing that. Along the way, my husband was a screenwriter, and so I was always reading his, screenplays and working with him and collaborating with him on that, behind the scenes. Then once my kids got older, I decided, okay, I really want to do something for myself. So in Michigan, my family is very well known for, giving back to the community. It's always been a part of our culture, part of our lives, part of our family. And so I kept thinking, like, what better way to amplify a message than through television and film? So I got together with my sister-in-law and my a family friend, and we kind of pulled our resources together, and we started this production company called Branch Out Productions.
What does the name
Branch
mean?
out because we just think about branching out to community,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of a growth sort of feel that we had,
Okay.
and we also have a mentorship program, a mentee mentorship
Really?
program
Okay.
that's called Blossom Mentees, and so they're kind of blossoming off of our branches. Our goal was trying to bring more production back to West Michigan and kind of making West Michigan a hub for diverse programming,
Okay.
and focusing really on BIPOC and diverse programming in West Michigan. So that's why we ended up doing our third film actually in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So we're very happy about that.
Right.
But our first two films, one was Mighty Oak, and the second film was Run and Gun.
Now,
So Block Party is actually our third film.
where are those first two films available to watch and download?
The first two films you can stream on Amazon, download on Amazon and iTunes
Okay.
also.
Mhm.
And I believe that Run and Gun is now streaming on Amazon, and I also believe that Mighty Oak is streaming on Amazon as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So,
Lisa, can I just ask about Block Party?
yes.
Because when I watched it, I saw there's a lot going on here, and there are things that are spoken and things that are unspoken that's going on. Can you give our audience just a brief synopsis of what Block Party is all about?
Well, Block Party is based on our main character, Kiki, who is a recent Harvard graduate who's heading down to Atlanta for her dream job in the finance business. When she gets a call and her grandma is sick, and so she flies home to check on her grandmother. And her grandmother is known for giving this annual Juneteenth block party, and it's the 40th anniversary.
Mm.
And they find out that grandma has the beginning stages of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kiki decides to kind of put her job at stake and help her grandmother plan this 40th annual Juneteenth block party.
Mhm. Mhm.
And of course, she runs up against her mother, who is a controlling tiger mom, much based off of my character.
Really?
I won't say
Okay.
a lot.
All right.
Who's just like, no, 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 you need to get your ass back down to work, and like that's what's really
Mm-hmm.
important. But through all of this this journey, Kiki figures out a way to kind of balance her life as well as giving back to the community and also keeping family
Mhm.
sacred and in the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, I love how close the family is, even in their moments of dysfunction. You know, at the heart of it, that closeness is so precious to everybody, um, and I think that really comes across for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And as you just said, the tiger mom. So Kiki's mom in the movie is Tasha,
Hmm.
and Tasha. When I think of like parenting styles, she is very much of the authoritarian,
Absolutely,
kind of my
100%.
way or the highway. Um,
Absolutely.
Lisa, I've never seen that in you.
Yeah. Oh my
Well, okay, to be fair, I am a reformed tiger mom.
God. Okay. All
In
right.
remission, exactly. I
Okay.
remember when my kids were first born, and much when you and I were beginning to raise our kids. I had my kids in Chinese immersion, Spanish immersion. They had Kumon every single day. Like I had them on this path, and they had to go the way I wanted. Even though I'm pretty much a liberal, I was still very much a tiger mom.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then I enrolled our kids in this school here, and it was uh, 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 not a collab, but it was a school where kids learned through play.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't experienced that before because my whole experience was, you learned your ABCs this way,
Right.
you memorized it, all this rote learning. And I realized that, oh my gosh, kids can learn a different way.
Right.
And right after that, there was a charter school that opened up, and it was part homeschooling and part classroom learning.
Mm-hmm.
And and I realized, like, wow, like this is a great way because they can be socialized in the classroom, but I can also customize my children's learning because one of my children was struggling with reading quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and my other child was kind of off the charts with everything. And so I
Right.
realized that public school, like a regular public school, is not really the right track for them.
Right.
And this worked out really well. And so because of that, I was able to break myself of some of my tiger mom ways and realize that there's other ways of learning.
Right,
Good.
right, right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so important to see the different needs of your children and
Yeah.
Mhm.
recognize you can't compare your child to anybody else's.
You
And
absolutely cannot.
You can't even compare your child to your other kids that you
No,
have.
absolutely. I was shocked how different my kids were. I'm like, wait a second, they both come from the same DNA, but they're so absolutely
Right.
different. And
right.
then I thought about my brothers and I. I'm like, well, we're very, very different. Even though
Mm-hmm.
we come from the same DNA. So
Right.
you do have to parent for the child that you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Parent for the child that you have. So again, a lot of things being spoken and unspoken in Block Party. One of the things that I noted, the therapist in me is always, I see trauma.
Yeah.
I'm always seeing trauma. And I saw the multi generational trauma that was being passed down from Graham
Mhm,
Jam to Tasha and now to Kiki. But I also saw that trauma, that cycle being broken towards the end
mhm.
of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Was that and like an intentional part of your story?
That was absolutely an intentional part of our story to show that this trauma, that these pathways that we've been taught are not always the best pathway anymore. And I think it was really important for Kiki to kind of break away and say, I need to be my own person. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because even though a lot of our stories are very diverse,
Hmm.
we also want to make sure that our stories are accessible to everyone. And that's something that every family goes through. And there are different traumas that people go through in it, and it affects the way that you parent very
Hmm.
much,
Hmm.
in the way that you receive love, the way you receive learning. And I think that was really important for us to do that in this story as well.
Right. And I think that while your characters are primarily African American, um, that families, regardless of their race or ethnicity, can relate to what is being depicted in your story.
Yeah.
And that's
Um,
very important for us.
and
Mm-hmm.
right, just to kind of normalize that experience and not just say, oh, this only happens to one type of family versus another. No, this sort of thing can happen anywhere at any time. And I thank you for showing that arc and showing how you can break that cycle with that intention to do so.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
about Kiki and her cousin Ebony? With Ebony saying, you're not one of us anymore.
Hmm.
Was that based on any type of personal issues that you've had with your cousins now that you're a Californian and you can't relate to Michigan?
Well, fortunately, with my cousins, they're very accepting of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I um, I know that there is a difference between our lives and our experiences. And fortunately, they accept me how I am. I accept them how they are. But there is a difference, I think, when you leave your community, especially for a prolonged period of time, and you come back, you kind of have to figure out how you fit back into that
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mhm.
And I find my family, and I was hoping that I was showing that also in this film, they're very accepting, but it's not, you're not the same as when you left. When you go off to college, when you go move someplace else, when you go off to the army, you're going to be a changed person forever. And that doesn't mean that you're not still part of that family.
Right,
You just have to
right.
figure out how you fit into that family, and everybody kind of has to readjust again.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
Now, another thing that you touched on in this film was hair
Hair.
and
Mm,
how certain hair is professional or
mhm.
corporate and straight hair is better. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, obviously, I don't believe that straight hair is
Yeah,
better.
I know. I know, but a lot of
Yeah,
people from
exactly.
the
No, a lot of
older
people do.
generation believe that why are you in braids or, and
Mhm.
then a lot of since I am a physician, a lot of my physician friends, black physician friends say they interview for jobs in weaves and straight hair, and once they get accepted, they show up in their natural hair.
Here in the African American community is always an issue.
Right.
It's been talked about several different times, and it is a challenge for us even still, even though I believe there's a lot more education about it within the African American community, as well as within the business community, as well as within, white people in the business community, and it's a lot more accepting. It's still an issue. And certainly with the older generations, to kind of understand and accept the idea that, maybe Black man is coming into a corporate world with, like, all this big afro or
Hmm.
dreadlocks
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
whatever it might be, it's very difficult. And so I think it's more comforting and makes people feel more secure when the hair is something that they can relate to.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate because I think we should kind of embrace people for who they are and meet them where they are.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still an issue, but it's definitely getting better, and I'm happy to know that it's definitely getting better. And I think it goes the other way as well. I think sometimes Black people are not thought of as being as in tune with the culture if they do choose to wear a weave, or they do choose
Hmm.
to wear a wig, they do choose to straighten their hair. There's some rejection of that in the African American
Hmm.
community too. So
Right.
it's just a balancing act. You have to figure out what's kind of right for you.
Yeah.
Right.
What works for you and not
Mhm.
anybody else.
Right, and surround yourself with the people who are gonna support that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Lisa, my youngest son Grayson is now 16 years old and he's got like a head full of hair. Like this afro is out of control. And I now find myself like, okay, come on, let's braid up your hair. And I am
Mhm,
now, sitting down with him, braiding his hair. I'm going to be twisting his hair later this afternoon. And it's something like way back when for me that I thought, huh, I don't know how I feel about, Black men with their hair braided,
mhm,
because it was
mhm,
not this
mhm,
sort of accepted, understood thing. And now I feel that there has definitely been a change in regards to Black people and their hair, and these styles are more accepted. And when he comes home and he's like, oh my gosh, I got so many compliments on my braids, I recognize that it's being more and more looked at as just this natural expression of being a Black person.
Yeah.
right. But as a mom, your anxiety gets to you. As a
Hmm.
parent, your anxiety gets to you because you're like, "Okay, I wanna see my child being successful." And I know when I was growing up, this was not a hairstyle you could wear to be accepted
Right.
in the
Right.
corporate world or whatever, we call successful now.
Yeah.
And so that anxiety starts building up in you, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I just don't know what to do," and the
Hmm.
control issues start triggering you. So
Right.
it's it's different and it's challenging.
Right. Now, I just want to point out to our listeners, you can't see Lisa, but she's a beautiful
Stunning.
woman with her hair very closely cropped. And it's you have to be beautiful to be able to pull that off.
That's untrue. That is absolutely untrue. First of all, everybody's beautiful. Everyone's beautiful. But
Well,
people
Lisa,
think
I beg to differ. Some people pull it off better than others. So,
but that can be said about anything, right?
right.
That can be said about
So
anything.
can you tell
And
us about, I mean, and this has nothing to do with the movie, but can you tell us a little bit about the step that you took or the decision that you made to cut your
shave
hair
my head.
Yeah.
and just, like look at me. I mean, you just have to I just feel like you have to be beautiful to pull that off because all that you have left is your face to focus on,
Yeah, exactly.
So
And well, there's two incarnations of me shaving my head. When I started at school, I was what people refer to as BAP, Black American Princess.
Oh, uh-huh.
You know, I
Yes.
had the Gucci bag and the diamonds and the
Mhm.
pearl necklace and all that other stuff and all the makeup and just face full of makeup.
Mhm.
And as I grew in college and started feeling more and more confident about myself, I realized one, like, why am I spending all this money to advertise for Gucci? Like,
Right,
that's just
right.
crazy, you know?
Mhm.
And just learning that, to be more confident in myself and I didn't need all these things. I have
Mhm.
nothing against designer bags, whatever
Right.
people can do what they want to do. But I realized I was using it to mask other
Mm.
insecurities and different
Mhm.
things and
Wow.
wanting people to see me as a certain way as opposed to being myself and letting them accepting me for what I am. And so that's when I ended up going like no makeup and end up shaving my hair because I'd had my hair relaxed at that point.
Mhm.
I realized, wow, like life is really easy. Like it's so much faster
Yeah, you
and
just get up and go.
Right.
less expensive. And then after a few years, probably after 5 or 6 years, I ended up growing my hair back and getting it
Mhm.
relaxed again and was kind of in that mode, but was just more comfortable with myself. And so I felt like, oh, I can still relax my hair. I can still grow it out because I know who I am now
Right.
Right.
and
Right.
I felt good about it.
Mhm.
And then, cut to a few years later, I had 2 daughters that have heads full of hair, which
Mhm.
is really curly, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, 1, I'm spending so much money on my hair and so much time on my hair, and now I have these 2 daughters who I have to spend time on their hair." I'm like,
Right.
"I'm just shaving it off again."
Mhm.
I've just been shaved ever since.
Mhm.
So it's really because I'm so cheap.
I remember our hair ritual when we were growing up. Hair wash day was on a Sunday, and then
Oh.
Yep,
mommy used to wash the hair, and then you have to
Oh, then she would put the olive oil on our scalp,
before the pre pre
the warmed olive oil
uh-huh.
on the stove top. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
a
then
whole thing.
yeah, and then
yep.
our brother used to say that was when he was glad he wasn't a girl because it just seemed so overwhelming to
Mhm.
deal with the hair issues.
Yeah. So,
Yep, it was a long process.
Lisa, let me ask you because Branch Out Productions really did not come into effect until you were older, right?
Mhm,
Wasn't something you
absolutely.
started at 20 or 30 years old. Um,
Nope.
how did it feel to be a woman of a certain age starting a production company and to think that, oh, I can do this, when
Right.
oftentimes women of certain ages are dismissed, think and people see us as ineffective or not qualified or not worthy, but you said no, no, no.
Right. I've been wanting to start a production company for years and years. I've always talked to different friends who've been in production saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that. But I think people get so stuck and so scared and anxiety ridden about not having enough and being able to do this. And it's so much easier to have a regular job and this paycheck is coming over and
Right.
over again. After marrying my husband, Matt, who was a screenwriter, where you don't have that guarantee, and me choosing to stay at home with the kids and homeschool them, like I'd gotten out of that framework. And I was like, okay, I
Mhm.
know, you can manifest things and things will be okay and things will, work out eventually. And, certainly we don't get to go on trips to Hawaii all the time. But, because of that, we have this freedom to have more flexibility with our
Mhm.
careers than what we would if we were living a different financial lifestyle.
Right.
And so finally, I just said, I'm getting to be 50 years old. I want to do this. This has been a dream of mine. I've got to do it. And so I figured out a way to do it and, partnered up with these other women. And we are doing it. And I'm really happy because I know we are changing people's lives. However, because I'm starting at 50 and, we're building this production company and we have 3 films behind us now and other people knocking on our door wanting to do things. I'm like, okay, well, I'm now 55 years old. I'm like, I'm going to want to retire at some point.
Mhm.
And like I said, we're trying to give back to community in Grand Rapids and build these people's resumes with being able to do television and film production. But also when we're doing that, we're thinking, okay, who can succeed us in this? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to want to retire one day. We're looking for people to um, be folded into our company to younger people to be folded into our company so they can eventually take advantage of this business
Yeah.
and have that business be
Carry the
passed down and
torch. Uh-huh.
Right.
carry the torch. Exactly. And we had already started this Blossom mentorship program. And it's a program that we do, and we match up people who don't have the experience, who don't have career pathways into television entertainment or television and film. We match them up with mentors so they can learn how their current skills can actually translate into the television and film business. So, for example, we'll take people who were a local barber
Mhm.
in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we matched them up with the seasoned key hairstylist on Block Party and brought them in so they could see exactly what was happening and how we can fold them in. And they learn from them. And we also pay them because we're like, hey, these people need to get paid. If you're doing work, you need to get paid. Even if you're learning, the opportunity to learn is a lot easier when you actually have an income because
Right,
every single
Right.
time someone comes on set to observe somebody else or to shadow somebody else or to be an assistant to someone else, that's taking away from their regular day job. So we
Right.
make sure that they're being paid for that too. So we try to incorporate that into our budgets as well. And this last summer fall group of mentees we had are just absolutely amazing women. Every group that we've had have just been spectacular, and they've ended up getting jobs within the business, or we ended
awesome.
up bringing them on our film in Grand Rapids. But this new crop of women are just absolutely spectacular, and I just adore them. I just cannot wait to see where they go. And they happen to be screenwriters. They want to do screenwriting, television writing, and so they've really propelled themselves. It's great. And then my oldest daughter just announced to me that she would like to get into television and film business. Now, when I asked her that a few years ago, I was like, hey, mom's doing this production company, and it would be great if you maybe think about doing it. You're a really good storyteller, and produces all these, TikTok videos or YouTube videos used to be, and she really had a passion for it. And unfortunately, her freshman year in high school, she took this class in video, and she was so excited about it. And unfortunately, the teacher was just a jerk. He was
Uh-huh.
just a terrible person, and she lost all of her love for it. Completely
Right,
lost her love.
right.
Mhm.
And but now she's at San Diego State University, and she called me up the other day. She goes, Mom, I've been thinking maybe I really do want to do television and film. She goes, it just seems like a smart idea. She goes, you guys already have a company. I'm like,
Yes,
that's what I was
yes, we
going to tell
do.
you.
And
Yeah.
we'd love to have you.
Got a family business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
It's
I'm so
fantastic.
happy that you've been able to create something that you know is going to leave a significant impact and a legacy for so many people, um, in Grand Rapids and for so many, aspiring young people. So thank you for the work that you're doing, Lisa. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just want to mention that the song Head to Toe by Lisa and Cult Jam was
Yes.
featured in that movie. And when I watched the movie, I remember me and Judy dancing in the car
Oh
like
yeah.
maniacs.
Yeah.
So that was a really nice flashback.
It's oldie but a goodie.
Uh-huh,
Exactly.
yeah, that was
Always.
great.
That is always a
We
good song.
Yeah.
Always a good
Yeah,
song.
we looked for the right song for the grandmother and Kiki to
Uh-huh.
share,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and we finally came up on that one. And the director and I were like, "Yes, that's the one. That's a
Hmm.
really good song," because music was so important. I know when I look into studying about dementia and Alzheimer, like
Hmm.
music is such a significant thing that
Yes.
sometimes connects
Yeah.
patients who
Yeah.
are suffering from that to their loved ones. And so that was really important for us to do, knowing that the grandmother was starting to
Yeah.
suffer from dementia,
Right.
the beginning
Right.
of dementia.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a real pleasure just to see your beautiful face and to talk to you about these things.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure, absolutely. We want to give you an opportunity just to share with the audience, how they can find Branch Out Productions, how they can find the film releases that you've
And
had,
maybe the mentorship to apply
and
for the
maybe the
Oh,
mentorship.
mentorship.
definitely.
Uh-huh.
So could you just share
Exactly.
with us for a moment?
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Well, our film, we partnered up with BET Plus Original, so it is a BET Plus original film, Block Party is.
Mhm.
But you can download it on iTunes, you can download it on Amazon Prime. And as far as our company goes, if you want to hear more about our company and some of the projects that we're working on, we have a website called Branch Out Films, Branch Out Films plural, FILMS. .com, and on there you can also find out more information about our mentorship program. And if you're interested in it, you can apply. There's a button where you can click on and fill out an application that you can kind of be in line, and we can look it over and possibly give you an interview the next time we have mentorship openings available. And our other films, Mighty Oak and Run and Gun, are also available for purchase for download or on DVD on iTunes and Amazon. And also, Block Party is coming out on DVD just this week.
Oh,
So you might
wow.
be seeing some
Mhm.
advertisements come around about
Hmm.
that.
That's
So it's in
awesome.
time to purchase for the holidays if there's people out there who really enjoy DVDs as
Hmm.
opposed to downloading.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
Lisa Mathis, thank you again for being with us on Tusoka. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
It was so great seeing you and Candy. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
So, Judy, do you have any last words with regard to the movie Block Party and any kind of take home messages from that?
There are so many. I would, just so thankful for Lisa for coming on. But I do want to point out in regards to our mental health, the recognition of multi generational trauma and how that can affect families for generations. And being able to recognize that this is being transmitted and then being able to kind of check yourself to recognize that you want to break the cycle. And you might not be able to do that on your own. You might best be able to do that with the help of a therapist. But I think the acknowledgement of multi generational trauma is key.
Okay, great.
And what about you? Do you have any last words?
Well, with regard to the film, one of the main characters, Ram Jam, had the beginning stages of dementia. And I think it's important to, when you have older relatives in your life, to pay attention and to not kind of discount when an older relative becomes more forgetful or has difficulty performing multi-step tasks such as cooking and hygiene issues. Those things need to be discussed with a physician so you can take the necessary steps and to make sure that they don't end up in a situation where they end up hurting themselves
Right.
accidentally.
We just want to thank everybody for listening to Tusoka today. We always appreciate your participation and engagement with us. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment.
We would love to hear from you. So you can always reach us at our email, tusokapodcast@gmail.com. And remember,
If you or your family has experienced multi generational trauma, if you or your family have experienced an aged loved one with signs of dementia, please know that there are a lot of us out there that can relate.
yeah,
We'd like to shout out to our production company, No Longer Network, and we will see you all again on Tusoka. Thank you.